Rhiannon was married to Pwyll, the ruler of Dyfed, and after they had been married for several years, she gave birth to a son. On the night he was born, 6 waiting women were sent for to sit up and watch over Rhiannon and her sleeping child. But as the night passed, one by one the women fell asleep, and they didn't wake up until dawn. To their horror, the child was nowhere to be found. Rhiannon, very tired from giving birth, still slept. The women began to panic. One said that they were in danger of all being put to death for allowing the child to go missing. Unable to find him, they tried to think of some way to hide their guilt. Now there was a staghound sleeping nearby with her pups, so this is what they did. They killed one of the puppies, and they smeared the face and hands of the sleeping Rhiannon with its blood, and scattered a few bones near her and waited for her to wake up. Of course, when she did, she called for her son, but the women swore that Rhiannon had awakened in the night and in a fit of madness had killed and eaten her son. They said that they had all struggled to stop her, but she was too strong for all of them. Rhiannon knew this wasn't so, and she promised them that she would protect them from punishment if they would only tell her the truth, but they stuck to their story. Word of these events spread like wildfire through the kingdom. Pwyll's nobles petitioned him to cast Rhiannon aside for her terrible crime. He refused, but to placate them he did agree that she must be punished, and this was the punishment that was decided upon. She must sit every day beside the horse-mounting block at the castle gates, and she must tell everyone who arrived what crime she was accused of, and then she must offer to carry them on her back up the hill to the castle. This was to be her penance for 7 years. Now our story turns aside to another matter. At that time there was a lord who ruled Gwent Yscoed. He was called Ternan Turvliant, and you would not find a better man anywhere in the world. Ternan had a beautiful mare. She was better than any other horse in his kingdom. Every May Eve, this mare would give birth to a foal, but by May morning the foals were always missing, and no one knew what became of them. Finally, Ternan said to his wife, "Wife, we have been careless letting this mare lose her foal every year. Tonight is May Eve, and God's vengeance on me if I don't discover what happens to these foals." So Ternan had his mare brought into the house, and he armed himself and began to keep watch. Soon the mare gave birth to a big, beautiful foal. Immediately it got to its feet, and Ternan stood up to look at it more closely. Just then he heard a terrible commotion outdoors, and then an enormous claw reached in through the window and grabbed the foal by its mane as if to take it. Ternan drew his sword and cut the arm off at the elbow so that it fell to the ground, leaving the foal safely inside. Now there was a scream and more commotion outside. Ternan rushed out, but the night was dark and there was nothing to be seen. Soon Ternan remembered that he'd left the door open, so he went back, and there, in the doorway, he found a baby wrapped in a sheet of brocaded silk. He picked him up, and immediately he noticed that the child was strong for his age. Ternan barred the door then and took the child to the bedchamber where his wife was asleep. "Are you asleep, wife?" he said. "Not any more," she replied. "I've brought you a child," said Ternan, "if you want him, since you've never had one of your own." "My lord," she replied, "what's the story behind this?" So Ternan told her what had happened. They could see from the cloth he was wrapped in that the boy had belonged to a noble family. Ternan's wife said that it would give her great pleasure and comfort to care for him as her own. They decided to tell everyone that the boy was their own child, and they named him Guri Goldenhair. The boy was reared in Ternan's court, and by the time he was a year old, he was as big and strong as a child of 3. And so it went until at 4 years of age, he was a well-grown lad. He loved nothing more than to bribe the stable boys to allow him to take the horses to the river for their daily drink. Ternan's wife said to him, "Lord, what became of the foal that was born on that May Eve when the boy came to us?" "The stable boys have been looking after it all this time," he replied. "Do you not think, husband, that it would be good to have the horse trained and given to the boy?" she said, "since they both came to us on the same night?" "I agree with you," said Tiernan, "and I think it is you who should give the horse to the lad." So the horse was given to Guri. Tiernan's lady spoke to the stable boys and asked them to train it carefully and to bring her news of its progress so that it would be ready for the time when the boy would ride it. But in the meantime, word came to Tiernan of Rhiannon and her punishment, and many people spoke to Tiernan about how wretched her situation was. Tiernan began to think about this. He looked at the boy Guri, and he realized that he had never seen a lad who looked more like his father, for Tiernan had known Puich when he was younger. Now he was troubled, because it was wrong to keep the lad when he was another man's son. So Tiernan spoke gently to his wife. He asked her whether it was right for them to keep the boy when Rhiannon was under punishment for his disappearance, and the lad was the son of Puich. Of course she agreed that the boy must be returned. And she said to Tiernan, "Lord, 3 gifts will we get for our honesty. Rhiannon's thanks for freeing her from her punishment, the gratitude of Puich for raising his son, and third, when the lad becomes a nobleman, he will always help us, because he is our foster son." The following day, Tiernan made ready to set out for Puich's court at Arbeth. He took 2 men with him, and the boy rode the young horse which had been born on May-eve. They soon arrived at Puich's gates, and they could see Rhiannon sitting beside the mounting block. As they approached her, she began to speak to them. "Go no further. I will carry every one of you up to the court, for this is my punishment for killing my own son." "Lady," replied Tiernan, "not a one of us will allow you to carry us." And the boy added, "Even if the others were to be carried by you, I would not allow you to carry me." They went up to the court and saw that a feast had been prepared. Puich had just returned from his circuit of Dyfed. They were welcomed and washed. Puich welcomed Tiernan, and they all sat down to eat. Tiernan was seated between Puich and Rhiannon, and the boy sat between Tiernan's 2 men at the top of the table. After everyone had eaten their fill, they began to drink and converse. Then Tiernan told the story of how his mare had foaled one May-eve, and how the boy came to be in his household, and raised by his wife and himself. "Behold, this is your son, my lady," Tiernan said to Rhiannon, "and whoever brought your troubles about did you a great wrong. When I heard of your misery, I felt great sadness, and I am sure that everyone who looks on this boy will agree that he must be the son of Puich." Everyone agreed with that, and Rhiannon said, "If that is true, then I am delivered from my worries." And since the word she spoke was Pryderi, which means worry, that became the boy's name, and after that he was called Pryderi. Puich thanked Tiernan for raising the lad, and promised that he would be repaid for all that he had done. And Tiernan replied, "Don't forget my wife, who loved him and cared for him, for no one will miss him more than she will."